Welcome to Clear Mountain Conversation and Interview. Today, we're very happy to have teacher, mentor, Ajahn Sukhito. Ajahn, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Northeast Thailand. Okay, so I'll read a quick biography. So Ajahn Sukhito, born in Israel in 1970, is a Theravada Buddhist monk in the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn. In his early 20s, he traveled to the east, where he first encountered Buddhism in northern India, an experience that profoundly shaped his life. He went on to study and practice within several Buddhist traditions before ordaining as a monk in the Ajahn lineage. For over 30 years, Ajahn Sukhito has lived and practiced as a monk primarily in Thailand. For approximately 14 years, he has served as abbot of Wat Phut Jom Kam Forest Monastery in northeast Thailand. In recent years, he has also spent extended periods in Israel at the invitation of his students, supporting the development of the local community of practitioners in the Ajahn tradition. Also in recent years, Ajahn Sukhito has taken on the role, along with Ajahn Jayasaro and Ajahn Don, of spiritual advisors to the Ge Gamala Foundation, which provides holistic Buddhist education in the form of weekend camps at various monasteries, and with a vision to establish a holistic Buddhist bilingual school in Ubon province. So, I first met Ajahn Sukhito probably 13 years ago and have spent time at his monastery, Phut Jom Kam, and just feel so blessed to be able to spend some time with you. I haven't seen Ajahn in maybe 4 or 5 years. So it's wonderful to see you even via the screen. And I'm curious if you could just talk a bit about your practice coming east. You mentioned, or in your biography, we mentioned that you had a deep connection with northern India. I actually hadn't known about that part of your history, so I'd love to hear more.
Mm-hmm. A little bit, because maybe a lot of biography is kind of there's a principle, it's good to know a person bit by bit, like for a long time, make the connection, and then you discover all kinds of things about each other. North India was actually maybe a short period. So when I grew up, Buddhism was much less known as these days, maybe let's say 40 years ago. So I knew nothing about Buddhism in my early years, teenager, and then so it was when I traveled to India, about age 20 plus. Somebody said that there's the Tibetans, they live in the north, and it occurred to me as something interesting, not that I knew anything about it. So that was how it began at the south of India, and then gradually traveled up, and then came there to Dharamsala. And there was a kind of a story behind it of increasing interest and intensity in regard to spiritual matters, spiritual search. So maybe it was just kind of converging into this introduction to Buddhism course in the Tibetan tradition, famous place, Tushita. And the experience was very powerful, could be rightly called as life-changing experience. And then from then on, continued on the Buddhist exploration, and with lots of enthusiasm. So,
we won't. We'll circle back to elements of the biography in terms of your path to Wat Phut Jom, but not settle in there too much, because just wanting to actually ask a question that I love to ask other monastics, and that is, do you have a favorite sutta you could reference to us? Maybe one well-known one, and one that's a bit more unique and precious to you, that's kind of echoed with you a little bit over the years. It's an interesting question, but I'm curious if anything just surfaces naturally from it.
So we are straight into hardcore matters. Yeah. maybe what would be, so of course could be different angles on this matter. Also, discovering the suttas was quite an experience. In so beginning knowing the Tibetan tradition and kind of general overview of Buddhism, and then coming to Thailand and knowing theravada, and but through let's say like not direct through suttas, and then beginning to read, and even the English of the suttas was quite kind of unique for somebody who is not an English speaker to gradually kind of get a sense of this language. And so, but if to think about recent times, so then it's been many years also, and I was really, the relationship with the sutta was very powerful for me for many years, kind of discovering one and memorizing them in Pali sometimes, in English sometimes, and and kind of throughout the years. But I think if I think what's recently, so let's say recently I don't read a lot, but it's like coming here and there, and it's also nice than old ones that I used to like very much and already forgotten. Suddenly they come up as, oh wow, this one is so beautiful, and it's somehow relevant to things that are happening in the life that we have here and the practice, and whether personal or communal. So actually, it may be a surprise to bring up. So you said you want kind of something unique, or actually the one that was most significant for me in the last few years as a frame of work and reference for the Dhamma was, which hasn't been before. It's like it came up last few years. Is the well-known 5 faculties. Or, the Buddha gives them in two ways. One is indriyas and one is balas, 5 powers. Mm-hmm. So often it's known as the spiritual faculties or spiritual powers. And we call it mental also, mental powers. So these ones, somehow they came up as one of the most, and in some areas, maybe foremost as a model, right? The Buddha gives us models for either for our practice or perspective on the Dhamma, perspective on existential matters, perspective on how do we practice, how does it work? So this one, these 5 faculties, they can be expanded much more than usually the way that we consider them. As like, to practice, you need some sattva, and then it produces some effort, and, this, you can use it in so many different ways, and it is so valuable. So, and it has a kind of a perfection of a model, which of course is relevant to many of the classic models that the Buddha gives, 5 hindrances and of course 4 noble truths, and it's a kind of a genius perfection. So this one is also quite remarkable in, it's simple, it's 5 faculties, 5 items, but actually what they can mean in so many different ways. So in the last few years, that was my maybe foremost kind of a use of a sutta reference. Actually, I didn't go back much to, because I think there's a samyutta where the Buddha, it's a whole collection about them. But maybe to say something about it. So it's an excellent frame to approach the Dhamma in a holistic way. So, which is one of, I think, the foremost, most important things to actually how to present the Dhamma, how to approach the Dhamma, and actually one's life. The Dhamma and life is supposed to be one thing, one matter. So the holistic approach, how everything is actually works together, connected. And if we want our life and our path of practice to really develop in a way that is effective, sustainable, and works well, then we have to learn this holistic approach where everything matters and gradually put things together, harmonizing and supporting each other and seeing where we are lacking, where we may be excessive. So these 5, they are excellent. And in that way, you can make each one of them into a dimension of one's life. So much more than, like a kind of a mental, spiritual faculty, much more than that. Each one can be a headline or presenting one major dimension of one's life. And the 5 together actually are quite a complete, holistic framework or model. So I don't know if we elaborate on it. Maybe we'll see. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Those 5 indriya, faith, energy, mindfulness, samadhi, concentration, and wisdom, panya. And I read a book recently by Sarah Shah that talked about the numerology of the Buddhist canon, and that this number 5 often is associated with completion or kind of perfection, and also the 5 strings of a lyre, which would, be perfectly tuned. So I think your pointing to them as kind of a complete picture makes sense. And I'm curious, Tanajan, if, you talked about how each can almost be a whole dimension of a life. If you had one of those that's really resonant with you right now, or has kind of been especially in your heart recently, is there one that you might single out as especially meaningful, and why?
I think if to say something about it, may be good to actually. So let's say I could say that as I speak and recommend to use them, I'm also taking it for myself as the point of holistic. So all of them together, bring them together rather than. I guess there's always some possibility of one of them being an highlight for us in a certain time or a certain way. But the point of them working together and merging and together harmonizing is also the one that I could think most relevant to me as a personal approach to it. Maybe it's good to actually explain a bit how do they come into being 5 dimensions of life. Yeah.
Please.
So the first one, sattva, would be the aspect of life which is relationships. Yeah. So in a traditional way, sattva is your relationship with the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, right? Yeah, to have trust, to have faith, to have a devotion. But to make it broader, then it's not only Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Also depends how do we interpret Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. We can make it much wider than we can make it in all kinds of ways. But we can say relationships, then it will relate very much to human relationships. Yeah, how do we relate to people around us as an aspect of sattva? So whether it is trust, and you can also broaden the quality of sattva to say, for example, one's relationship to Buddha Dhamma can be a sense of you really have a love for the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, right? This kind of a quality and a relationship. So between human beings, that is also relevant. So how do we create a friendship and relationship that is constructive, good, harmonious? So this will be one dimension of life, dimension of, and actually internally you can call it the emotional dimension, so in brief, second one, virya, so it's the dimension of action, action, which means energy, which means diligence, to put forth effort. And then on a broader scale, you can say, as a human being, to be productive. yeah, to be able to take tasks or duties or projects and to actually fulfill them by one's energy, by one's willing to apply energy, to put forth effort. And of course, also this one, it's a huge aspect. So being productive, you can say also being creative. There's also some aspect there of being resilient, yeah, the kind of the strength. So that's second dimension, the dimension of third, mindfulness. So so we all kind of probably heard about mindfulness, awareness, and the broader duty of mindfulness is the sense of supervision, supervising either particular tasks or aspects or the whole of one's life. Yeah, so it's like the dimension of management, of supervising, creating balance, creating harmony among different elements, and then being able to oversee, like this awareness that is above. And it's not a coincidence that mindfulness is in the center, in the middle. Yeah. So that's third one. Managing one's time, one's resources, everything needs a work of management and supervision, or even like the work of government. Yeah, they need to govern the whole complexity of things together. Then the fourth one, samadhi. So how to translate samadhi? That's a issue. Occurred to me a new one. You can call it mental cohesion. So the broader aspect of samadhi would be the inner dimension of life. Yeah, inner dimension of life, which of course it's hugely important and in many cases neglected in the human world. So we have 1 out of 5, the inner dimension. So how do we develop awareness there and, all the being productive internally and so they all related to each other. Or how do we relate to our inner world and recognizing that everything that happens on the surface actually have inner causes, have roots to it. And so many things. Then of course, as Dhamma followers, we engage with it quite a lot. Can call it also the spiritual dimension of life. Yeah. And then the last one, wisdom. So wisdom, intelligence. So that's in a broader sense the dimension of learning in life, learning and knowledge, which is also actually a huge one, highly important. And we can see that any aspect of life or any other dimension of life has the aspect of the importance of we want to learn about it. We want to gain some knowledge which is true and beneficial in regard also to beneficial matters. So one can say it's the faculty of being able to investigate, to inquire, to search and research, and then so that's completing this 5.
Ajahn, that's beautiful. I really appreciate that. And I'm curious just to get to know you little by little, or at least to introduce people who are watching this to you little by little. I'm wondering if you could trace that first one, the faith or the emotional, relational aspect, through your biography a little bit in terms of your development. If I remember correctly, you grew up in a kibbutz in Israel,
No.
and then you moved to India. No,
not in a kibbutz,
incorrect.
In a town, kind of city life.
Well, could you just track, the growth of faith from Israel to India, and then eventually to Northeast Thailand, where you ordained in the Ajahn Chah tradition?
The quality of faith. One way to approach it is considering early childhood. I guess one aspect of childhood we kind of look up to who can we trust, or who can we admire? Yeah, who can we really uphold? And as little children, usually we look up to the adults, right? Parents and others around us, because they have so much more experience and there's so much, there's so much more than us in life already. So in my case, actually, one of the things that I can remember quite clearly in early childhood is the gradual loss of faith in adults. Yeah. The more I had a kind of a sense of understanding what's going on, and more kind of clear awareness and looking at things, the more I had a sense, actually, these people, with all the respect, are actually not very mature yet, adults. So that became an ongoing question, and you can call it also a certain degree of a problem, but kind of a search. So yeah, actually, who around here would be somebody really, really worthy of respect and kind of a sense of maturity? And of course, as a child, maybe we don't have this language. Yeah, it's not that I was kind of thinking it in that way, but that kind of search was actually from quite early childhood. And the recognition that actually, I don't see much around me. And it lasted for many years. And of course, one's search can include all kinds of experiences that we have, and then reading books. And in my case, music became very central in my life. And it wasn't just like listening for fun. There was kind of more to it. And actually, until I had this very powerful experience of meeting the Buddha Dhamma Sangha there in northern India, in this Tibetan, I wasn't satisfied at all with this search. Yeah, there was, and maybe, there were all kinds of things on the way. That there's some inspirations and even sometimes you get really inspired by something. Or for example, I had my music heroes, but when you hear about their life, or and those days actually it was much more difficult to know who they are, what they are. But sometimes when you see, actually, so it's not like it was really but that point of meeting Buddha Dhamma Sangha was very powerful. Of course, it was very initial, and from then on, because a part of it was also there were a few monks and nuns that were teaching. So it was first time also. This whole thing of monastic life was very much unknown to me. There was not at all. And everything was very initial, but generally they looked like, people that were worthy of respect. And, they talk things that, really mind-blowing. But yeah, that's a little bit of a past kind of a reference.
Could you narrow in on that moment of, it's just tantalizing, in first encounter with Buddha Dhamma Sangha that you just referenced? Could you speak about it a little more, Ajahn?
By the way, the leading nun on this 10-day course, I'm pretty sure you know her, Thupten Chodron.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. I've known her since I was 14 years old. I've known her since I was 14 years old. She lived about 45 minutes away from my house in her abbey.
Really? And now, she's got a monastery in right? Yeah, so she was like the main leading teacher, or like in that also very Jewish, after a while said or something like this. So, so that experience, it was, every day talking about what we would call the fundamentals of the Dhamma, the law of karma, Four Noble Truths, and then introducing meditation, which I began to practice because I did some yoga and yoga ashram. So I began, but here, things were very, very different in hearing it from the Buddha's teaching. The law of causality, and then 5 hindrances. It was all like really so powerful. So it kind of felt all like as if you meet something that was always there already, kind of, cooking of, in the back of because there was already, like, since early, childhood, I was kind of quite interested in contemplating all kinds of things and trying to figure out. And actually, many years later, when I thought back, what was the main point there that was really for me like the, if to say more, it was there they use the Tibetan frame. So there's a term called Lam Rim, which is something like gradual training, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point that what life is about is training and developing one's mind and heart was for me the kind of the heart of the matter, which I think for many years I already had some sense for it, and anything else looks not quite right, not quite. And I never had a sense of, I want to do something in my life from all these things that, you are introduced to in the worldly way. I'll do school and then I'll get this, whatever career, profession, whatever, was nothing really kind of really. But this matter was kind of clarifying everything. That's it. That's the point. That's what we are here to, to live our life for. And then, of course, connecting with so many other of these teachings of the Buddha, the law of karma, and hearing first time about rebirth, and it really made sense. I never thought about it, it was never anything in my kind of sphere of knowledge or anything, but it all really made so much sense and kind of put together. So it was really yeah.
Tanishan, the next faculty, the faculty of virya, or as you're framing it, of energy or resilience. I mean, it's not like you thought about becoming spiritual and then you just, went to the countryside in Israel. I mean, you traveled around the world, you pass through India, get inspired, then you make it to Thailand. But actually where you end up in Northeast Thailand, especially at Pujamkam, I mean, it does, when you're up on the hill, on the cliff, it seems like you're on the edge of the world. You're on the border with Laos. And it took a lot of effort to actually go to Thailand, go from Bangkok up to Ubon. And I'm curious if you could talk about, I was always very inspired by how you spoke about Lumpur Liam and how much respect you had for him. And I'm curious if you could talk about your initial inspiration and zeal that came up from meeting different teachers. Did you ordain with Lumpur Pasanu, or was it Ajahn Jayasaro? Or just would be curious for you to talk more about the zeal that brought you into the Ajahn Chah tradition and those early encounters with teachers.
Mm-hmm. So we continue with the kind of more personal experience, but I guess, it's also a way of looking at the Dhamma. And also you pick up the faculties, right? Now we are very young.
Yeah.
So, certainly all of that wasn't planned, wouldn't imagine spending my life so many years in Thailand. I also knew nothing about Thailand in all, the early years of life. Maybe something about Siam, and there's some kind of a movie about it. And that's about it. So the traveling to the East, in a way, it's a very common thing in the Israeli culture. a young man after school, going to the army. It's a part of our experience, at least the majority, almost all of us. And then after that, it's a kind of a common thing to travel, to get kind of a, exploration of both fits the age and also fits living in a country that is small and very intense, to go out and look a bit. And the choice to go to the east, because some people go to South America or elsewhere. So for me, it was very natural. I already got some interest in yoga at the time. And I guess also, there's this kind of invisible currents in one's life that make you choose some things and tend towards something. But actually going to India, I felt incredibly at home. Yeah, there was I began South India and just felt so much sense of being at home with just the life there, and also the whole spiritual dimension of India was also very much resonating and kind of so maybe it's a past karma, and so that was. But then on the plan, there was already a plan to continue to Thailand, and, maybe a few other countries. Those days there were less countries available than these days. So India met Buddhism, which really was like a change of but also after traveling for a while, there was a sense of just going to see places, do this, do that, just is not very meaningful. So, but that fits very well with the increase of what we may call spiritual search. So you can go to a yoga ashram and then you hear very interesting thing, Advaita, and then, their way of practice, and just some people that are dedicated, met some Swami or dedicated to spiritual practice. So yeah, that's how it went. And then meeting Buddhism was kind of certainly a very, very clear, powerful sense of, I'm just going to continue with that. And all the rest actually doesn't matter much. And going to Thailand was on the plan. So you say, how did I end up in the northeast of Thailand? You said it's the corner of the world. Maybe it's your mistake. Maybe we are right in the center of the world.
We're totally on the wrong side of the world. I agree.
That not far from here, if you not very far, it's the birthplace of Ajahn. Yeah, that's maybe 30, 40 kilometers. Not far from here, Lumpo Sao. He was the end of his life, or was cremated. The Chedi of his. And of course, Lumpo Cha in this province. And so for us, we are living just at the center. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can say surely in terms of forest tradition, theravada Buddhist forest tradition, this place is, or this area is like the birthplace. But actually living in Thailand was very different. When I came to India, I felt at home, not in Thailand. In Thailand, actually, I felt, very strange language, very strange food. It was very, very, very different, actually, sense of connection in that way. But the Buddhism here, the Dhamma, that actually the connection from the beginning felt very like a very strong resonance and being inspired by it. The beginning was the Ajahn Buddhadasa monastery, where they have also introduction course. They've done it maybe for 50 years now, every month. So that was very inspiring, and I really had a sense, that's really resonates, and, simple, down to earth, and again, like the classic teaching is just so great, and so. And then there was those days, information was in books. There was a book of monasteries in Thailand. Actually, before that, I picked up at the end of this retreat. They put some books on the table. I picked up one, and it was Ajahn Chah, and read one page, and wow, this is this master. Really. And then in that book of monasteries, I saw Wat Phan Chah. This disciples, international monasteries. So that's kind of one thing leads to another. But these things were not clear yet, yeah, like the kind of exploration of different traditions and different places went for quite a while until deciding where to go.
Tanajan, you pointing to this paradox of Ubon as an Isan as, dismissed by some of the world as kind of the corner of Thailand, and yet Ajahn Jaisaro has also described it as this, spiritual superpower, the birthplace of so many Kruba Ajahns. And you occupy a very interesting role in that space, moving on to mindfulness, since you gave us the framework, and, overseeing. You stepped into the role of abbot of Wat Phu Jongam about 13, 14, 15 years ago.
Is that right? Or is it more than that by now, Tanajan?
Yeah, 14, maybe gets close to 15, something like that.
14 or 15. And that monastery is known. I remember visiting it for the first time. It's beautiful by the Mekong River on this amazing landscape of stone and some forest as well, established originally by Longpo Pasano. But it's also very simple. I remember there's like buckets of water, that you would use to move water in some cases, and just extremely. I know the sala you're sitting in right now has a grass roof that you replace every 5 years. We just asked about it, and I don't think you had to make any of those decisions to hold that ethos of simplicity, and kind of carrying on a certain baton of this Thai forest tradition's simple heart. So I'm curious, what was your vision stepping into being the abbot of Wat Phu Jongam, and what have you tried to kind of steward into being, or what's been your vision for it, and why is that important?
Maybe first thing it's good to say, I'm the abbot. I don't know. I don't have any, nobody gave me a title or a document and I don't particularly consider myself abbot. Kind of sound very official, and I'm here. It's also kind of a natural progression of one thing leads to another. So I didn't come here to be the abbot, and I wasn't appointed. Actually, in Thailand, there is a formal system of being an abbot, but Phu Jong Kom is not a formal monastery. Maybe it will happen in the future for certain benefits, but also quite likely not. So, the connection with the place, actually, it began very early. My very first visit to Nanachat, where I didn't know anything, just a lay guest, after a few days, they told me, we go somewhere. So go up into this Song Teo, this truck, and then traveling a long distance, we actually ended up here in Phu Jong Kom. So that's the connection began. Of course, the place looked kind of beautiful, but at that time I didn't know anything. I think it was Katina. I didn't know what's going on, and it was all new. But later on, spending time here, and there's also some things you can say. There's certain invisible kind of connections and inclinations, but also when you contemplate your life, or the invisible becomes visible in all kinds of ways also. So about 15, 16 years, I actually came back to Thailand after about 2 years in Australia, which was my first time for a longer time outside with the monastic life. And then, there was already a sense of being interested to come back to Phu Jong Kom, but it took some time. There was some things that were happening. And then I ended up here, and it was Phu Jong Kom for many years was kind of under a temporary senior monk or abbot, depends how you call it. And actually at that time, Ajahn Yaniko was here for a few years. Was taking care of the place quite well. But then he left, and I ended up staying. And it in a very natural way, it felt the right place. And also, it's not that I had big plans. I thought, okay, now my plan for the next usually in my case, I don't know, I don't plan much. For a few weeks is enough. And even next day, what we're going to do here, which body trees we're going to water tomorrow. Yes. So, but yeah, in a natural way, it ended up, I think, very, very good connection. And I can see so many things why Pujangkom is, for me, it's a great place. And of course, trying to make it a place that benefits others. So
Tanjan, so bridging from mindfulness to the manager perspective into samadhi, or this interior perspective. I mean, as a senior monk, you kind of get to shape that, the training environment, the capacity or the potential for someone to go interior. And I know a lot of Westerners, certainly with myself, we encounter Buddhism, encounter the Dhamma in a meditation center where there's lots of specific hours of people meditating together. And that's not really the system in a forest monastery, certainly not in the Ajahn Chah tradition. And I'm just curious if you could talk about the way that you try to arrange and manage Pujangkom to encourage both your own practice of samadhi and interiorness, as well as opening up the interior capacity of the monastics and lay people staying in there. What is the daily schedule, or how do you support samadhi for those staying there?
Regarding management, I'm certainly not a good manager. Yeah, every day I'm kind of improvising, but that's why I'm in a place where doesn't need a very, life is very simple. For example, if you're going to build your monasteries, probably you have all kinds of regulations and, things to work out, buildings like this and like that. So here we have this very simple, or, to manage Wat Nanachat in Thailand, that takes a very high skill of management here. But in a way, management that is done in a more natural, improvised way. There's a kind of a strengths that you can say, or some different places can have different qualities and different styles of management is also very natural and good to have. But the point that you bring up, it's also, very, very important one. A forest monastery. So the ideal of a forest monastery is indeed that it's like a place, a setup, a framework for holistic practice, for holistic way of developing the Dhamma. And that's, one can say, the difference from a retreat center. In a retreat center, you get usually very artificial kind of conditions created. And usually, at least, the emphasis is about a lot of hours of meditation. So that, of course, brings me other questions about the whole of the Dhamma practice. Is it measured like if you meditate many hours a day, it means your practice is better, advanced, or so in the holistic approach, it doesn't look like that. Yeah. Meditation has to be just the right measure in order to play its role and contribute to other aspects of one's practice and one's life. Yeah. And so, like, back to a forest monastery. So indeed, how to create, whether the routine, whether you can call it the kind of the culture of the place and the community atmosphere. There's so many different elements. Actually, if you look at it, it's made of so many different elements. And to create them as kind of working together in this holistic way. So relationships are very important. Yeah, the relationships of people living together. It's a huge aspect of practicing Dhamma and developing the wholesome qualities and meeting many of one's kilesa. Yeah, in meditation, you can sometimes, at least, you can apply a certain technique. You can suppress your desires and kilesa and, put them in the corner and then develop all kinds of achievements on the technique or on the cushion, but actually, it may be not enough to actually, or if it's in that way, it's surely not enough. Or it's like you need some other ways to actually really discover yourself, really, and where are these unwholesome states, or the roots of the suffering, the roots of ignorance, and the roots of problems. Yeah, so these relationships is a huge aspect where we can learn, we can practice, we can correct ourselves in so many ways. We can develop the qualities that are wholesome and noble. So of course, and that was one of the big, how would you say? Ajahn Chah was very special, as we know, Luang Cha, because if the ethos of the forest tradition was a lot about the solitary, go up into the mountains, into the cave, into the jungle, and and be there by yourself, and then Luang Cha saw that actually for this time and age, and I guess it took kind of gradually, but he developed it in a very significant way, bringing in the community aspect. And not as just some kind of a practical necessity, be together so that we can manage a place, but much more than that, actually, as one of the pillars of Dhamma practice. It means so many things. Yeah. And I know that actually one of the things to praise you is that you really build a community there in the Hill Mountain. Yeah, you seem to begin, maybe the whole beginning of what you're doing is seeing the importance of a community. And I guess now approaching monastery, it will be the time to begin with a monastic community. Yeah.
Ajahn, thank you for those kind words, and kind of emphasizing something that's been so key, because Ajahn Kovilo is talking about how you cultivate this environment conducive of samadhi or practice, and you kind of reframing the question as this holistic, how do you keep people in balance? And speaking from personal experience and a long time in the Thai forest lineage, I know one of the imbalances which often does manifest is this kind of overly ascetic bent that has, a strong flavor of the Thai word kriyat, really overly serious, kind of clenched in on oneself. I think most of young monks, including myself, certainly have gone through phases where you're pretty deeply unhappy and very critical and very isolated, and can dry up quite easily as well. So you just emphasized one medicine to that, which is community. But I'm curious, because I'm sure you encounter many monastics kind of moving through this dark valley. How do you steward them, or help at least guide them into some measure of balance? How do you, give them a sense of lightness, levity, or at least being a little less miserable on their path to kind of establishing themselves in the robes?
Mm-hmm. Maybe to continue a bit from the setup of a monastery. I don't know. It looks to me because it's also relevant for this.
Yeah, please.
So another aspect is the. So indeed, when we talk about holistic, we talk a lot. It's very much about balance of the whole, different aspects balancing each other. So of course, in a monastery, you like people to have time to be with themselves, to meditate, to be in a reflective mode. It's of course kind of we know it as a central aspect, but again, actually the right measure of it, and one way of seeing the balance of it. So one thing is solitary balanced with community, and then you can say contemplative, how to call it, retreat mode balanced with active work mode. Yeah. So actually having a part of one's life, and in a monastery you can say daily life, to actually do some work. Yeah. work that is productive, that is physical, is very good. Yeah. So, these days you can take projects and spend a lot of time on screen, which is not to say that it's should be dismissed, but at least part of one's like actually physical activity and kind of having a connection, which is a part of understanding forest tradition. It means live down to earth is a good term. Yeah. So kind of you're really down to earth, and you have whether you do the sweeping and the taking care of the place, and sometimes extra, especially for men, yeah, physical activity is actually very healthy mentally, spiritually. Yeah, to have some more strenuous physical activity. Maybe for women need less kind of that. It is these strenuous work, but other kinds of. So yeah, that's also a part of this holistic framework for monastery. Not underestimating the value of it. How much one develop in the Dhamma through also learning to take tasks and to put efforts and to sweat and to be responsible for certain duties, and also the sense of when you look at the day, one day, oh, actually, yeah, I did something tangible, because sometimes, yeah, internally it takes a long time to actually get a good sense for what is bhavana. How do I actually develop there? And sometimes we get over the top thinking that we're so great. It can happen. And other times they were very critical, very also doubting. Yeah, maybe actually I'm not getting anywhere. And so having this kind of down to earth aspects of life where you see, actually, yeah, I can take this sala and make it clean and organized, well organized. And you really see yeah, or some people get skilled in construction or repairing or carpentry. Or of course, kitchen is a big thing in monastery. So yeah, there's many things to do, and it's good that not to look down upon it. And for some people, actually, a lot of, and then the measure also can say varies between people. Yeah, with Lumpoliem for many years he was highly engaged in work, but it was a work that is Dhamma work. Yeah, not getting lost in work, not. And you mentioned the well-being that we can get into kind of a darkness. And so when you have the holistic approach, you develop friendship. That should be one of the pillars of one's spiritual life, of one's develop friendship. And it takes a lot of practice. It takes investment. It takes also ups and downs, just like meditation. Yeah, but it's so important and so valuable. And it affects so much one's well-being, actually. Yeah. So, and that's so we said, yeah, you have the solitary aspect, and indeed, we know that ultimately we have to bring things into one's own responsibility and one's own being refuge unto oneself, is one of the famous quotes. But also being a refuge together as the Sangha, as the community, as friendship on the path. This is something that very important to emphasize in this time and age. And it's not because we are not gang enough, as those Ajahns that were up in the jungle. It's just a different way of practice. And one can say what it creates for the long term is a wider effect on the world. Yeah. And you see community these days, you can consider the global community. Why do they quarrel? Why do they, bomb each other? Or it comes back to small communities, living together, a few people, a family, community. And you can see that how challenging it is. And every monastic community has to discover that it's actually quite challenging to be together. Maybe these days, I look here in Pujongkong, we have very good atmosphere, but it's a practice, it's a work, and there's always things to, and if things are going well, you can look more subtly into your way of communication and many things. In the Thai culture, they're quite refined in a way of relating to each other. let's say, Thai culture in its best. I grew up in a culture that has not much refinement in relating to each other, not so much. So there's a lot to learn.
Ajahn, that was what you're describing, the holistic life at Pujam Gom and the ideal of a holistic life of a monk. That was very much my experience living at Pujam Gom for, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 or 4 months, but I actually lived in a cave. I lived in a cave, and it's one of the most, outside of the cave, one of the most sunny, exposed environments that I've ever lived in, one of the hottest environments I've ever lived in, one of the most exposed to malengui, or like those tiny little gadflies that are just constantly surrounding you.
Good to point out it was in the summer, right? It's not always.
This is true. That's true. But I remember bringing in that the final of these strengths or faculties of wisdom, you also have the Pratraipitok, the cabinet of the Tipitaka. And I remember it's all in Thai, but I remember taking books of that back to my little bamboo platform in the cave and reading. And I'm curious, I was so happy to learn about your interaction with Kate Kamala Mulniti, Kate Kamala, the Kate Kamala Foundation, which is all about education. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I think that we don't have that much more time, but I'm curious if you could talk about the aspect of education and what is Kate Kamala and what is your inner relationship with that?
Okay, in brief. Just your comment about sitting in the cave and taking a book of the sutta. Right? So actually, there's also something very important there. Connecting with the Buddha's teachings, and also in the holistic approach, it's very important, the context. Yeah. You can study the suttas, in some kind of a study program, or you can say it's very different to sit in an air-conditioned hall or room and kind of studying sutras and Buddhist scriptures, and or sitting in nature and opening it up. It's a very different experience and effect. So that's also, and it means a lot in regarding Dhamma practice, and something that each one of us can consider. Because these days it's good to be excessive, information, and we are very smart, intelligent, we can get into all these talk and study and so many, but the right measure actually needs the time that you're either sweating in a certain work project or sitting in nature. It's raining or it's hot or it's cold, and then the Dhamma, it feels different. It's more authentic. It's more, and then also with other aspects when you have to. I remember living in Pujamkom many years ago, and actually the community aspect, the senior monk at that time, was very challenging, the relationship with him. And then I went back far into my kuti up the hill, and the effect of this relationship is really, really strong and really kind of heavy. And then I took a book of Ajahn Chah, and just opening and reading it a little bit, wow, it was like a medicine, right? So, but that's how you connect with the Dhamma in a way that is really, it does actually, you really connect, or it really becomes a part of one's bhavana, one's practice, one's development, compared to approaches where you get lots of knowledge and a lot of study, which sometimes it can end up actually counteractive. Yeah. So how to create that balance also within the holistic picture is a very, very important matter. And there's always not one formula, but we have to, each one can kind of see for oneself and learn about it. And we always get into extremes until we learn like to balance things. So, Ket Kamala, education project. So one thing we can see the Dhamma as an education project, right? But without an age limit. Like saying the Tibetan Lam Rim, or what we would call the gradual path, the noble path. It's a gradual path of education, one can call. If one understands education, not just a matter of either accumulating knowledge for the sake of future profession, and then it's interesting that higher education is called like we go to university. Maybe we can say, look at it in another way. What is the Dhamma higher education? Get Kamala began with a consideration for the future of the society, future of the world, future of the Buddha Sasana. Yeah. If you look at Thailand, which is a Buddhist superpower, Buddhist empire, these days is recognized. Thailand is the biggest Buddhist society in the world, in the current world, Buddhist culture. But what is actually happening with the modern life and the changes of all kinds of influences and changes is that if you look at the young generation, you wonder how many of them actually will take interest in Dhamma, and generally, where is the direction of the human world, of the human society? And so it came up. There was a lay person, and she had a dream. She was born in Ubon, and she had a kind of a dream, knowing about the Buddhist schools that were established with Ajahn Jayasaro as kind of the spiritual leader. And so she had a dream to make one in Ubon. And and then she began to talk with different people. When I heard about this whole area of education children, it really made sense to me as something that is worthy to support. And that's how it began. But school is a big project, so we began with doing camps, small activities, in order to learn actually what it's all about and develop a group of people. You can call it a kind of a community. So many things to kind of do it gradually. And it's been going on now about 5-6 years. And it's actually developing very slowly. Yeah. One could think, after 5 years, you already maybe begin a school, and it's developing very slowly for various reasons. And also, like any kind of project, often you can expect to meet some obstacles, some difficulties to work with. But I think everyone involved is learning from it, and there's a lot of good intentions and good. And so, so for now, school is maybe also actually in Thailand they are beginning to close schools because the number of children is getting smaller. There's competition. There's all kinds of considerations. But the main point is that to actually look at the younger generation, and younger generation is not only children. One can say also the parents that are like the younger people. So we see in Western countries actually interest in Buddhism. Often you see many young people, right? And it's wonderful. We were young when we took interest in the Dhamma. But in Thailand, it's maybe much less than that. Most young people don't have much interest and connection. So, and parents often, they think, my child, it will be nice if he will be a good person, and they wonder how to be a good parent. And so there's a lot of potential there to bring the Dhamma in a way that is really relevant for people. That is also related to holistic approach. The Dhamma is not just meditation retreats or, insight practice and these kind of things. It really covers the whole of the human experience and human aspects of life. That was also something that, for example, Ajahn Buddhadasa was maybe the first one to really emphasize how the Dhamma is relevant to everyone, not just to this, special group of monastics with some lay people, devoted lay people, but for everyone. And also in every aspect of life. including everything, the social, the political. People say, "Oh, politics." No, Dhamma is separate. Actually, politics will work only will work well if you apply the Dhamma to the way, to the method of governing or using power, or these kind of methods are methods of Dhamma, whether in small scale, medium scale, or larger scale. So education also, it's well recognized in the world that the kind of education system, which is actually only, 100, 200 years, having schools and the children go there. And, often this terrible, boring experience sitting in the class. And I wasn't a great fan of school life. Actually left it at a certain point. So how to actually make education more better experience, and also make it actually more beneficial. So not only about getting these exams and this information and intellectual work, but much more than that. So these days, there's a lot going on, not only Buddhist, but we, using the Dhamma, we can actually make much out of it. So this project is very small, maybe partly because I'm just not good in managing things, as saying before. But of course, I'm small part of it. There's many people doing it together.
Thank you, Tanajan. Oh, sorry. We've kept you for quite a while, but I had one question I wanted to ask further. You spoke here about the Dharma being applied in different realms, whether it be education or politic, and your ties to, your homeland in Israel are strong. There's Israelis who get to come and sit retreat at Wat Phu Jongam with you. You go and visit them, and
we come to
just the different,
not sit retreat. We are here living.
Oh yeah, important clarification there.
Yeah.
The difficulty that Israel and the region over there has gone through. We're very careful about talking about politics and all that, and yet I know the kind of wars and other things in the world are very much on people's hearts now. And I imagine some of the people you're encountering are having to deal emotionally with a lot of those same ripples and waves with a war so near their homeland. And I'm curious if you had any, how you guide them and what advice you give them for kind of keeping their hearts centered in the midst of difficulty and upheaval in the world.
Yeah, because there's so many things. Yeah, so many relevant things. One point is that it's not by living a very comfortable, peaceful life that the Dhamma will grow in one's life. Yeah, necessarily. Often we tend to get kind of more complacent and sabai, easygoing. So some degree of challenges is actually one can develop many qualities, many strengths. So that's let's say that can be the main framework generally relating to challenges in life. Yeah. We all kind of heard about it or thought about it and have some. But then how to actually do it? Yeah, it's nice to say. Yeah, you have challenges. Okay, you have a lot of opportunity to develop your wisdom, resilience, and everything of the Dhamma. Yeah, but actually, how to do it? So maybe another principle to mention with so we have the holistic. Another one is that one to approach the Dhamma, to approach one's life as a long-term project. Yeah. So let's say you don't want to wait for challenges to begin kind of look, where is the Dhamma to solve my problem, to solve my dukkha, You want right now, as soon as possible, to see the point that life actually is a project, is a Dhamma project. You can use other terms. It's what we use, a more universal term. It's a human project to build up a life that is worthy, that is resilient, that brings happiness and benefit as much as possible for oneself or others. And so this kind of project, when you launch into it, whatever challenges come up, you have to continue and see it as part of your karma. Yeah. Each one of us finds different challenges, different issues to deal with according to our karma. If somebody is Israeli and committed to continue with this culture, this society, then okay, the conditions they actually do make it possible to apply oneself in all kinds of ways, to use the opportunity. So, for example, rather than you can get extreme, you can get extremely pessimistic, right? Extremely pessimistic. Then rather than seeing the situation as something, okay, we'll do our best to work with this situation. There's always many good things that we can do, and then you may do it. So that relates to perspective. Yeah. How do you look? You can look at it as a phase. Yeah. Maybe Israel is going now through an intense kind of phase of all these conflicts, and not that the last 70 years were kind of smooth and easy, of course. It's an intense kind of story. But still, the last, is it going to be 3 years? Is really much more than before in the scope of it and the length of it. So it brings up many questions, and those that are there and it's their place can apply endurance and apply that the sense of perspective is so important. How do you look at things? How do you understand conflict? The roots of conflicts are just the roots of dukkha and the roots of ignorance. These are the same roots. Yeah. If individuals, how the big conflicts arise, because, maybe the Iranians, they want to fix the Americans, and then the Americans want to fix the Iranians. And so everyone is fixing somebody else out there. They're not good, they're wrong. And not many people try to actually fix themselves, yeah, to actually look at ourselves, both, of course, as an individual and then as a community, as a group. There's so many things that we rather improve and change and correct. And then actually this world, will be a better place, and there will be much more of a cooperation, a sense of, because when we correct ourselves, we become more skilled in actually understanding others, which is, of course, a huge task, to actually really try to understand them rather than to, judge and kind of make them into the big enemy, the big evil, the big... so, yeah, many things to... And interestingly, spiritually, this time in Israel, many people take more interest in the Jewish tradition. Yeah. So... and of course, depends. Maybe some people, it's more like a kind of a superficial refuge, something to hold on to. But for many others, it's also a gate to a spiritual search, to actually consider more essential questions about life. If just everything is fine and the question is, where do I go for holiday next summer? Or then people don't care.
Well, Ajahn, if that question does arise in your mind, then you could consider Seattle for your next kind of vacation out. And we really, dear words, whenever we've talked in the past, Ajahn, I've been kind of your pacing and the care you take with each kind of formulation and how you hold the Dhamma, I think is a really helpful reminder for me day to day. And yeah, it meant a lot that you took the time to speak with us today and to kind of offer your words and wisdom to our community. So thank you so much, and our gratitude for your mentorship, friendship, teachings, and more.
Okay, thank you.